Let me ask you if this sounds like you. Do you go throughout your days feeling afraid, feeling a lack of inner safety that no matter what you say or what you do, that you're going to upset another person? Are you a person who takes things personally? For example, if you're driving down the road and you are going too slow, or maybe you change a lane without using your directional and you cut someone off accidentally, and then that driver pulls up alongside you and stares you down and gives you the finger and you feel, oh my God, I just did something so wrong, and take the other person's behavior personally. And you just don't want to rock the boat with anyone, strangers, your boss, coworkers, children, loved ones. And you're in this constant state of nervous system dysregulation. If you feel this on any part of the continuum, maybe a lot, maybe not at all, or somewhere in between, this episode with my guest, Andrew Dewar, who is the co founder of the 5 Year You. He does energy healing, and he used to be an accountant who now is a coach who does energy healing. We have a very profound conversation in this week's episode. So I can't wait for you to tune in and listen. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. I'm Kim Gross, your host. And today I have with me Andrew Dewar, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome, Andrew.
Great to be here.
So, as Andrew, as a healer, podcast host, and the co founder of the 5 Year You, I would love for you to share what this quote means to you. Don't change yourself so that other people will like you. Be yourself so that the right people will love you. Unknown. It's such a
I love that.
profound quote. What does that mean to you, and how does that relate to your story?
When you asked me for that quote, I was like, what quote should I have? My son made it for me 2 years ago. He etched it into wood and it's in my living room. It's such a profound quote and really sums up the evolution of my journey and many others too. To me, what it means is that you can spend a lifetime trying to make everyone else happy and everyone will like you. They just will because you're doing what they want you to do. You won't like yourself necessarily. Sometimes you might, but most likely. To discover who you truly are, to get to that inner essence and discover who you are, is to truly be yourself. When you can be yourself, it's been my experience that the people that love you, they show up. There's so many levels of this, but the one thing that's coming to mind right now is you switch almost from a quantity perspective to a quality perspective. Likes on social media can be very easy, but when we think about who we are and loving ourselves and so saying, this is me, you can accept me or leave me. A lot of people leave, but they never really loved you. They liked you because you were reflecting what they wanted to see. By being yourself, by finding your true inner purpose and your joy, the right people come around. And it's just so amazing. Every time you have a conversation with these people that love you light up, they light up, and your whole world is just it sounds a little cheesy to say magical, but I'm an accountant. I can use whatever words I want. Just, I'm not that flowery, but yeah, accountant turned healer. And yeah, it is truly magical. It's just this leap of faith that you take. And when you say, you know what, I'm first. And that's not a bad thing. I think we've just been conditioned to think it can be when we're people pleasers.
I love that response because as a recovering people pleaser myself, I recall so many times chasing after someone's validation, chasing after somebody else's approval, all in the name of being liked, being accepted, hearing the words, "Isn't Kim great? Isn't she a great person? She's so good. She's so kind." And that's the thing with recovering people pleasers. We are often really good natured, kind people, cooperative. So we're easy to get along with. People do like that. But at the end of the day, as you said, and we really aren't connected to our true selves. We don't really love ourselves because aware of who we truly are. We're so focused on wearing the mask and putting the mask forward that we cut off from our true self. Our true self gets lost by the wayside. It's very hard to come from within and let the people closest to us receive our love from that place, from the inside out. It's a very different way of living. I know you have a story of how you were in the throes of people pleasing and didn't feel as if you could just be yourself. Do you want to share that with the listeners?
Actually, it's unfortunately a little more deeper than that is that I didn't know myself. I grew up with a severely autistic sister. Like she was at the very end of the autistic spectrum. So my whole upbringing was just different than anyone around me. Nobody really got what I was going through. And then my sister tried to kill me and she would attack me randomly. Anything that she could find, she would grab and throw at me, scissors, book, giant 20-pound rock. Like it was, and there was no cause for it. It was chaotic, I guess maybe the best word. And so that just gave me this complete lack of safety in my life. So my whole being, when that happens, like when you're 12, 13, 14, you have no foundation. You don't know where safe is. Your home is supposed to be that safe spot. And I didn't have that. And the outer world, and I just took my kids to high school. And I was like, high school's a jungle. It just is. And it's so I'm seeing this and I'm going through and in my 14-year-old, 13, 14-year-old brain, I link up. I need to be safe. I don't know how to do that. I'm just going to do what everybody else says, survive. So it's not about thriving or anything else. It's just about this is how I feel safe. And so I stopped acknowledging anything that was me because I thought there was something wrong with me. This is a teenage tween brain linking these things up. And I don't revisit it until I'm in my 40s, this kind of thinking. The next 30 years are spent following everybody else's rules and creating a life that is safe for me, not acknowledging the healing that has to happen with that. And as I move through everything, get to go to school, get the job, get the safe job, become an accountant, which sorry to any of the accountants out there, but it's not exactly enthralling work. It is for some people, and bless you, we love you for that, but it's not me. But then it went so far as my wife at the time was safe, and I needed that because my nervous systems were in high alert, and they've been in high alert for 30 years to the point where I was walking around with fists, and I couldn't figure out why. And that was when I realized you are literally assessing every person everywhere you go as a threat. Every car, every wind blown, every leaf, you're on high alert. And I was getting very sick from it. So here I am trying to do these things.
Can you tell us
Yeah.
about the
No,
sick
no, no, go
part?
ahead.
Can you go a little deeper into the
Yeah.
sick? You were getting sick.
Yeah. So I was getting more and more ill. And it started with indigestion. I was doing diets. Maybe it was a vitamin deficiency. Trying to fix it is the way I would describe it. I went to acupuncture was like a very big step for me. That started to help a little bit, but it would get better and then go back. I talked to the acupuncturist and it's not really supposed to be this way. So it was only after I cut down all the water, like basically to a water diet, and I was still having it. She said it's probably emotional then. And that's when the floodgates opened up and I started crying in this office and had a come to Jesus moment where you're like, I'm not me and I don't know who I am. That prompted a whole bunch of different healing modalities. I went to EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization
Mhm.
reprogramming to deal with the trauma. And I wasn't actively seeking it. People would just say, have you tried this? Have you tried Reiki? Have you tried theta healing? Have you tried IET? And I was like, no, what are these things? I would try them and see some huge changes immediately. My first Reiki session, and this is really good for feeling safe. I knew nothing about chakras. I'm still an accountant kind of spreadsheet mind world here. And she was saying your chakras were in a cage, so we freed them. I'm like, I don't know what this means, but those are your energy centers in your body. And Your life force one was in a cage. So we opened and
Mhm.
freed it. You might feel tired today. I'm like, okay, thank you for this. I appreciate the incense and everything, but this isn't me and whatever. This is Saturday at noon. I went home, fell asleep. I didn't wake up till Monday morning. And that was when I realized, okay, so there's more than just 3D stuff. Everything is energy. It's only when you have that experiential kind of moment that you go, okay, there's a whole new world that I don't know about, and I owe it to myself to explore. And that's where I started to learn about trauma being stored in the body, learning how to release things, inner child therapy, and other modalities to help yourself heal. And as I have done that, I have become more safe. It's been a lot easier to go, okay, this is who I am. I'm Andrew. I love helping people. I want to help people become the best version of themselves. I don't want to be an accountant. In doing that, the right people start showing up. The right people
Yeah.
are like, yes, you found your mission. Great. We want to see you now. We want to help you. It's wild how it happened.
Yeah, it is very wild. And I want to just take a step back for a moment to this
Sure.
part about feeling safe and the connection that it can have with trauma, because I don't think that people often can appreciate or realize that trauma and people pleasing can go hand in hand. Like, people might just think, I have these people pleasing tendencies. I have a hard time saying no. I have a hard time speaking up for myself. I want more approval or whatever the characteristics are. But what you're talking about, I think it's so profound and it's so key. And I'd like to go a little bit deeper with this safety piece. When
For
we
sure.
don't have the safety, and we've been conditioned that way from an early age, it's almost a natural progression to go into people pleasing, because that's a sure way in our subconscious mind, quote unquote, to think we're going to be able to keep ourselves safe. That's when we start doing
Yeah.
all those things that you talked about. Pick the safe partner, pick the safe job, pick the safe everything. We are subconsciously scouring for safety. When you're always trying to be safe, are you truly living?
No.
So let's talk about the safety. Do you agree with what I'm saying about, do you?
Let's go real deep on this real fast. So you grow up, something happens to you. You're, let's just say, I believe we're all born perfect and it's beat out of us. We keep wanting to get back to that place where we feel whole again. That safety that leaves us in it leaves us in a variety of ways. It can be a teacher being mean to us. It can be a friend choosing not to be our friend anymore. The way I see it, first of all, it's not our fault. That's a really big thing. The second thing that happens is the story that we tell ourselves behind the event. And when we look at those events, it's been my experience doing healings with myself and with countless other people that we're missing fundamental feelings. When I'm working with somebody in the early sessions, they usually come in for some sort of, I don't feel safe or I need more money. And it always comes back to lack of knowing what love feels like, lack of self love, and lack of worthiness. Think about those events in your life that made you feel unsafe. You, your 5, 10, 15, 20, even 20-year-old brain told yourself, I'm not worthy. My best friend doesn't want to be my friend anymore. I'm not worthy of being a good friend. I didn't do this one thing that they wanted me to do. And now I got to do everything that everybody asked me to do to keep my friends. Or like the teacher thing, I got something wrong on a test. Now I have to make sure I get 100% on every test or I'm not worthy. And you get those marks and then you're still not hearing the words you want to hear from the external world because you have that missing inside of yourself. So this safety, this lack of safety, this need for it's very basic and necessary. And when you're walking around looking for threats all the time, you forget that you are safe 99.9% of your life, unless you're growing up in a war zone. And I know times are tough, but when you're going through life, you and I are safe right now. We're having a nice chat. We're in our own places and we're safe. But we forget that when we have that unsafe moment, we're like, "Oh, I'm never safe." No, you've been safe the whole day. A car honked at you, and now you're going to make sure that you never miss the light changing because you never want to be honked at again. We make up these rules to protect ourselves and stay safe, but it's trusting that we're worthy, that we love ourselves, and that we know how to keep ourselves safe in any given moment. We have to do that inner work to get us to a place where we trust ourselves again.
Hey guys, if you are struggling with many of the ideas and concepts that Andrew and I are talking about in this episode, I just want to let you know that my new book, my brand new book, Free to Be A Pathway to Inner Liberation, is available on Amazon for pre orders. The official release date will be October 15th, but you can pre order now. And if you pre order and you go to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com, it's in the show notes. You will be able to put your name in, and you have to have your order number from Amazon, and you will get a bonus free gift just for pre ordering right now. You have 5 days left to still pre order. After the 15th, you can go ahead and still just purchase the book. And I cannot wait for you to read this book. I have taken my mask off in the biggest way by sharing so personally and vulnerably with you, and at the same time, teaching you the lessons that I have learned through doing my 5 step power pathway. Cannot wait for you to read it. Yeah, I love that. It's so funny you mentioned about the car honking. I can't believe how often I take it personally if someone flips me off. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." If they get mad at me for doing something wrong on the road. It's just so not personal, and I think that's a key point is that, and you said this, that when we're young, we learned how to interpret certain events, and we personalized it. We internalized it as if we are wrong. And if we're wrong, AKA that meant we are or were inherently bad, unworthy.
Right.
That's how our little
Yes.
brains internalize those events. Oh my God, mommy's mad at me. I said the wrong thing. I must be such a bad girl. I'm horrible. I'm unworthy. Because we don't learn how to do it differently as we become teenagers, young adults, we continue to perpetuate that pattern. We continue to play that out. We're in grown adult bodies with these little kids inside of us running. So, what you're saying is, and what I talk about all the time, is it's about doing the inner work and healing that part of our child self and bringing in our adult self. Because, okay, yes, granted, when you were a child, maybe you didn't have adults in your life that could show up for you, that did show up for you. They didn't nurture you. They didn't come to your
It
rescue.
is.
They didn't know, right? But now you're an adult. So it's time to do the inner work and have your adult self show up for your wounded child self and
Yes.
create that safety for that wounded part of you so that you can then learn to live with more peace, more joy, more freedom. Your body can relax, right? Like you said, you used to walk
Yeah.
around with fists all the time. I used to walk around with my shoulders up like this. I had chronic neck pain all the time.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Hey guys, if you are struggling with the ideas and concepts Andrew and I are talking about, my new book, Free to Be A Pathway to Inner Liberation, is available on Amazon for pre orders. The official release date will be October 15th, but you can pre order now. And if you pre order and you go to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com, it's in the show notes. You will be able to put your name in, and you have to have your order number from Amazon, and you will get a bonus free gift. You have 5 days left to pre order. After the 15th, you can go ahead and still just purchase the book. I cannot wait for you to read this book. I have taken my mask off in the biggest way by sharing so personally and vulnerably with you, and at the same time, teaching you the lessons that I have learned through doing my 5-step power pathway. Cannot wait for you to read it.
I've done some inner child work very recently, the last couple of months, and it was my first experience with it. It really has changed the dynamic with myself. When I'm feeling something, I start to feel tension. People would like put their hand on me and I'm like, wow, you're really tense. I'm like, no, I'm not. This is just how I always am. When you said that, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I feel that. So when it comes to nurturing ourselves, we have to listen to that inner child and know that it's safe. And that's really what it's wanting. You have something comes up, somebody honks at you. And instead of seeing yourself as, I'm a bad driver, I did this wrong, I need to make sure this person likes me, or going the opposite way, which is like pure rage. Like when that happens, just envision yourself like your little child sitting in the seat next to you and just going, what do you need right now? And often from my experience, it's been, I did something wrong and they're mad at me. Then your adult brain can help correct that and say, oh, no, they're just having a bad day. What somebody else does to us isn't us, it's about them. We have to tell a different story around it. And there's different ways to do that. One of my favorite things is to jump into that person's mindset. What kind of person feels the need to flip off a random stranger? I try to get back to love as fast as possible. It does not always happen as fast as it needs to. I
I
try.
know. I know.
And you try, it's just going into that person's perspective and thinking like, what had to happen to you to think that this was okay? That it's
Yeah.
okay to be verbally abusive to a store clerk or to push other people out of the way? What is going on? And when you have that kind of sympathy for someone, that perspective shift, you take pity on a lot of people, not in a bad way, but in
Yeah.
a compassionate way. Pity might not have been the best word there, but you just have
Yeah, no,
compassion for
compassion
everyone and the
is a
journey
good
they're going through.
compassion is a good word. I like that you bring this point up. I used to be on the flip side of that. I have had road rage. I can still have road rage. I can get nasty on the phone with a customer service person or have really gotten nasty. So then the question is, let's take a pause and reflect what is going on within me. This is what we're talking about, how to live from the inside out. So take a pause. What's going on inside of me? A lot of hurt and woundedness, especially back in the days when I used to do it more frequently. I had so much unhealed pain, so much unhealed trauma because I didn't really know what it was at that time. It just had to come out of me. And especially as a people pleaser, how often did I suppress all of my emotions? I pushed it down. If my husband came at me, if my mom came at me, if this one came at me, I pushed it down because I had to be the good girl. I had to be the people pleaser. I had to not show my emotions. I wasn't allowed to as a kid. So now all that crap is stored inside of me. So guess
Yeah.
what? If I'm riding down the road and someone cuts me off, like it's going to come out. But now it's as you truly, I believe, know better, you do better. I've been on a path of wanting to heal and be the best version of myself. I know I have to go inward. I have to go
Yes.
in and heal that. And now, like, it's random. It's very rare that I'm the one who's having the road rage or so on and so forth. And even if I do, it's okay. I'm not perfect. I still be like, oh, okay, there's something still here for me to see and heal. Any thoughts on that? And living from the inside out, how do you use your modalities to help with that healing process?
When we offer coaching, we offer a 5-week intensive. We use what we call the layers of life.
Mm,
If you want to think of a target sign where there's larger rings going down to a center bullseye, most of us are living from the outside in. We get people who live from the inside out. On that outer ring is the stuff we've been talking about. It's the accolades, the accomplishments, it's the acknowledgments, it's all of these things that you want to get from other people, right? You want other people to go, oh, wow, look at the new house you just bought. Look at the new car. You want the dopamine hit of and the acknowledgement. To do that, what we do is we go to your soul to start with, and we go, okay, what truly makes you? What makes you happy? What lights you up? What's the thing you could do for hours without pause? What makes the day melt away for you? And then when we get to your purpose, we start to build the self. We look at four different areas: mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. How do you want your body to look? Do you want to be flexible? Do you really not have many preferences for your body? You're just, no, I don't really care. There's no bad answer. But so many of us don't think about this. We don't design our life on purpose. We've been designing our life by accident. So this is a very structured 5 weeks of intentional, thought provoking things that we coach you once a week. Right now, we offer 1 to 2 coaching, meaning one person with myself and my partner, Kat. We do check ins throughout the first year and onwards. Once you know how you want to be spiritually, once you know who you are mentally, physically, emotionally, once you can really get a feel for yourself, then we start thinking about the relationships in our lives. Once you know who you are and your soul's purpose, you can start thinking, how do I want to show up in my intimate relationships? What does intimacy mean to me? I think there's a real big gap with that. I'm not talking about my partner's sexual intimacy. That is part of it, but it's also like, how do I want to be with my kids, with the people that I truly love in my life? And it's that lack of intimacy that breeds a lack of connection in life. We have access to millions, billions of people now, and we all feel disconnected because nobody's being vulnerable. Nobody's doing these things that are saying, this is me, because we're all afraid of that rejection. But when we know who we are and we love ourselves and we know that we're showing up as our authentic self, then we can think of how we want to be in our family, how we want to be in our community, how we want to be with our family. And that changes everything. And then we can start thinking about, how do we actually want to live our lives? What is happiness? What is a life? What is a good life? My version of my good life before I did all this was the big house, paid off mortgage, 2 cars, and it didn't work. I think a lot of us are going through that right now, where we feel the need for something more. And when we can start to understand that more, that hole in your heart that we all have, that's you missing in your own life. You've done everything for everyone else. And we're saying, let's start in the middle. Let's start with you. So when you get clear on the lifestyle you want to live, the finances you want to have, the work you want to do, all of these things now are coming from a place of purpose, and it feels different. For some people, not everybody, this becomes their lifetime profession. Some people, it's a side hustle. And other people are like, I just like doing puzzles and I'm just going to sit at home. I just want to be able to come home at night. And if I do a puzzle for an hour, my soul's satisfied. There's no wrong answer here, but the clarity of it leads to so much more depth and pleasure in life. Once you have your lifestyle, this is the fourth ring, you get to that outer ring, that fifth ring. You still want accomplishments because we're human beings, where this is not about being a monk and meditating 20 hours a day, but it's coming from a different thing. You post something or you do something, but it comes from your soul and your sense of purpose, and it gets received in the world very differently. And the reason why that is because it's coming from the inside out rather than asking for accolades and acknowledgement from the outside in. And so your life changes in these most amazing ways. So that is the program. I do
Yeah,
want to
no,
say
I
one other thing that,
sure, go ahead.
sorry.
No, say
Um,
your thing first.
okay, thank you. The other thing you were talking about was tamping it down with the emotions. I did that too. I call it the emotional garage. My friend coined it to me when I couldn't figure out anything that was happening to me. He said, "You have taken every emotion you have ever felt, put it in a box in the garage, and the garage is full." That was my breaking point. My body was like, we can't hold these emotions anymore. You need to deal with this. I'm telling you and your listeners, start now. Cry when the commercial makes you sad. Laugh it out loud if you're not used to laughing out loud. Lord knows I wasn't. Get angry in a safe way when you feel angry. Getting angry doesn't mean road rage. It just means going, I'm angry, and letting it out. Emotions are energy in motion. When that emotion is stored in your body, it builds up and it doesn't feel good. And we all know that feeling. We all know that time that somebody said something to us and we're like, I'm biting my tongue, but it hurts because you're like just you're tense. That tension doesn't leave you until you release it.
As they say, the body keeps the score for sure. It will
Truly
show us,
does.
it'll come out sideways if we don't address it. I
Oh, yeah.
just wanna go back to what you were saying earlier, which is you were talking about this notion of how we mostly start out living from the outside, working in, and then you teach and coach how to go from the inside out. I just wanna share as a testament to doing that kind of work, and I outline this in detail in my new book, Free to Be: Pathway to Inner Liberation, how much my life has changed as I started to heal from childhood wounds. Now, when I emanate from the inside out and come from my soul, life, the trees are that much greener. The sky is that much bluer. I see the trees, the sky, the plants, and the sun. Before it was like this veil that covered everything because there's just so much darkness, so much numbness, so much pain, so much trauma that again I was storing, pushing down, not facing, not dealing with. And then now that I'm we're using the analogy of the river is flowing now, it's moving, it's clear, all that sedimentation, all that muck and murkiness that was buried,
Like,
dirty muck, muddy waters
yeah,
are now able to flow clean and clear. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean my life is perfect every day. There still will be times when things come along, but I know how to address it when things come up. And so this peace, this freedom, this joy, this abundance infuses everything, your relationships, the way you work, the way you move throughout your day is just so much different compared to when I was wearing the masks, when they were glued on and that's all I could see. Imagine just looking out from a mask. That's why everything was hard to really see because I had a mask on. But now that the masks are coming off, I can see everything so much clearer now. So, any last thoughts on that? And then finally rounding out by telling the listeners where they can find you.
I definitely relate to the glued on masks. I even remember my dad, like when I was a kid, and through no fault of his own, but he said, I'm a different person here than I am at work. I have to put on my work hat. At home, I put on my dad hat. And like, you're an impressionable 5, 6, 7-year-old kid, and you're like, oh, that's what I have to do. I have to be Andrew here and then Andrew there, and never the two shall meet thing. It's so hard. I'm exhausted thinking about it. It's so funny when you stop doing the things you've gotten so used to doing
Mm.
and you look back on it, you go, how did I do that for so long? It was like running a perpetual marathon without a break. And when you stop and you're like, oh, I could just walk when I feel like that's a different vibe. It's a completely different energy, emotional set. It's very different. And I think when we start to take off the masks, this is probably something a lot of people are hearing right now. The first thing they're like, how do I do that? You have to do it with a trusted friend or advisor. And it can be a coach, it can be your spouse. This has to be somebody that is going to accept you because often when you go from people pleasing to self love and taking care of yourself, people don't like that. Not because they don't like you, but they don't like the change that has just happened. And it's not a criticism of everyone else. We all just, we know like change is inevitable. And it's also not always the funnest thing, especially when
Yeah.
suddenly you start saying, you know what, I don't want to eat chicken anymore. I want to be vegan. And they're like, we've always eaten, like, we have chicken 5 times a week. This is our favorite meal. Like you've said, it's your favorite meal. It's my favorite meal. And now you're saying something different. So find that person that you can talk with, or like coach in a program such as ours, where you have that safe space to start exploring who you are, and somebody that goes, look, I got you. We've walked this path. We know that it is not as simple as just take off the mask. Those
Right.
things are spackled on. They take a bit of time to come off. Sometimes you put on an old fragment because it's out of habit. You're not meant to be perfect with this. You're meant to make progress. That's why it's called 5-year you, not 5-week you or tomorrow you, because you take these steps. It's a journey. Life is a journey. When you know where you want to be in 5 years and walk towards it a little at a time, that's when you can look back and go, wow, I am so different than I was 2 years ago. And in hard times, that's what I've trained myself to start doing is to be able to look back and go, 2 year ago me would just, they wouldn't believe anything that's happened. But that's the joy of following that path and seeing it. I think you taking off the masks, if that's what's calling to you right now, then it's finding that safe person to do it with and just ask the universe. Sometimes you just got to be, I'm looking for someone to help me be me. And that person might be literally the person you're hearing right now talking to, or it might be your best friend in the car, or it might be someone at work. I guarantee you're not the only person feeling this. You might come to someone and they're like, yes, yes, I don't want to people please anymore. Can I just be me with you for the first time ever? It's such a challenge and a beautiful thing as it happens. And
Absolutely.
but you owe it to yourself.
If someone wanted to find you and work with you, where can they find you?
They can just come to, we're on social media everywhere at 5 Year You. That's FIVE year YOU. But 5yearyou.com is our website. We have the podcast too. They can email us at hello@5yearyou.com. We respond to every email pretty quickly. We're here to serve. This is my life's calling. I want to help more people discover their life's purpose and what brings them joy because there's a ripple effect every time somebody starts this work. It is beautiful because other people start to notice and they start to go, you seem different.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah. And you'll hear things like your hair looks better or your skin, like there's something about you that's different. And they can't figure it out. You found your spark and your
Yeah.
purpose. And that's it. So yeah, 5yearyou.com. And for working with us, we always offer a free 1 hour coaching session to just chat and see if it's the right thing for you at this time and see if we're a good match for you, if you're a good match for us. And we're here to serve.
If you want people to notice that there's something different about you and you want that inner growth, you want to start to live your life from the inside out, then Andrew and I both encourage and invite you to embark on the journey of doing the inner work, healing the childhood wounds, healing your pain, trauma if you have it, anything that is keeping you from living your best and fullest life. This was such a great conversation, Andrew. I loved it. Like I said at the beginning, I just love talking about this. I could talk about it all day long. And I encourage you to check out Andrew on his website, his podcast, and tune in to next week for another episode of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists.